in the cards. But just to quickly recap, there is a new hack coming for Xbox One and Series consoles, a user mode/kernel exploit in System OS. And it doesn't create a full jailbreak, but at the very least it should allow us to get dev mode functionality on retail mode, and hopefully a little bit more than that too, as time goes on. So far I made a video showing you how to get your Xbox set up before Microsoft implements an update or does something to prevent you from actually running this exploit when it comes out. Well, that's already happened because Microsoft have actually pulled the GameScript app from the store, which is the application that you need to use to run the exploit. So if you don't already have your Xbox set up at this point, it's already too late. However, it doesn't look like so far they've actually patched the vulnerability, the kernel vulnerability, in any of their updates. So the update that was known to be vulnerable was the May update 10.0.25398.4478. So those last four digits, 4478, if you're on that firmware, you should be good. Microsoft also pushed out a June update, which pushes the version number up to 4908, and that has also been confirmed to still be vulnerable. And since then, they've also pushed out another small update, which increments the version number to 4909. And apparently, so far, at least we've had one person that has tested it on that system version, and it appears that they're still vulnerable. Now, you can't actually check to see if your OS version is vulnerable using the original PoC script, because that original PoC script is just the user portion of the exploit, and it doesn't tell you if Microsoft have patched the kernel portion of the exploit, as the developer Emma states here on X. She says that just to clear up a misconception, the GameScript PoC does not indicate the presence of the kernel vulnerability. The PoC simply shows mapping and executing new user mode code. If you update and see the GameScript PoC still works, that does not mean that the full exploit will. So yeah, just because you can, run the GameScript PoC and it says 1337, you get that message, does not mean that your OS version is vulnerable to the full exploit, unless of course that you're on 4478 or 908 and possibly, hopefully, 4909. So what the developer Emma released is a new PoC that will actually test the kernel portion of the vulnerability. So with this new one, if you run this one and it works, then that does mean that your OS version is definitely vulnerable. So I would definitely recommend, replacing the original PoC script with this new version to see if it works. Now, as the developer states here, people have been asking if the exploit will work on 4909. I don't actually know because I don't have any consoles on that version. But if you have a console on 4909 and would like to test, you can run this proof of concept. So there was one person who did test on 4909 and it seemed to work. The way that you know if it's going to work or not is if your Xbox crashes when you try to run the PoC script. That's what should happen after about 30 seconds to a minute. It should crash your Xbox. If it does not crash your Xbox, obviously make sure you have, the code entered properly. But if it doesn't crash your Xbox and it gives you a message that says it's likely been patched, then you'll know at that point that whatever OS version you're on is not compatible, and Microsoft have probably fixed it at that point. But at least for the updates that have been released so far, it appears that they have not patched the vulnerability, but they have removed the GameScript app from the store, so if you don't already have it, you are too late to get things set up for this exploit unless another method of getting the GameScript app on your Xbox is found. So yeah, that's the kind of situation we're in at the moment. So if you want to run the new PoC, all you have to do is open up your GameScript app, delete all of the previous code from the old PoC. The easiest way to do that is to plug in a USB keyboard and then just do Control-A and backspace to get rid of all the previous text that's in there. And then you can just copy the new PoC script using, Notepad T, or you can use a rubber ducky or Raspberry Pi Pico to inject the new updated code into the GameScript app. There is also another method that somebody emailed me about for copying the code, another solution using the Edge browser on the Xbox, which is another good solution if you don't have the Notepad T application or the Advanced File Explorer app that has full trust enabled. If you don't have those applications and you don't have a rubber ducky that you can use to inject the code, then instead you can use this other method. So this method requires an Android device, and what you need to do is download the PoC from the GitHub on your Android device. So just go on the site, download it as a zip file, and then extract it to your Android device. You also want to download an app from the App Store called the WebShare app. and get that downloaded. Once you have that installed, we're then going to disable any network connectivity on the Android device, disable mobile data, disable your Wi-Fi, and then enable a mobile hotspot. And once you have the mobile hotspot set up, you can then connect to it on the Xbox. And because you'll have all of the network disabled on the Android device, the Xbox will not be able to get a connection to the internet, so Xbox Live will still be blocked. However, you will be able to access the local network of the Android device to access the PoC script. So all we're going to do is get connected up there, and once we're connected on the Xbox, we can then run the web share application and select the file, the PoC script that we downloaded as the file that we want to send over the network, and then we can just enable the web share application, and then it will give you an IP address and port number there that you can access on the Edge browser on the Xbox. So you just want to open up the Edge browser on your Xbox, and then go to that IP address that showed up on your Android device with the port number 1111, and then if we go there, we'll be able to access the file that is on that web share. And from there, we can then select it, open the new tab, and we can then just copy all of the code that's in there. So just highlight all of the code in the Edge browser from start to finish, and then you'll have the option to copy that code. And once you have the code copied, you can then switch back over to the GameScript application to use the option to paste that code into the GameScript app. And then that is another way that you can copy the code. Again, you can use your Rubber Ducky Raspberry Pi Pico. You can use the Notepad T application by opening the file from a USB. There's lots of different ways, but if you don't have those other methods, this is actually a good alternative because all Xboxes should have the Edge browser installed, and you should be able to do this. So again, this is not going to print out anything onto the console if it works successfully. If your console is vulnerable, what it should do after about 30 seconds to a minute is after running it, it should crash your Xbox. So the Xbox should just crash, and then it will reboot automatically. And you'll notice that when it reboots, it'll be stuck on the Xbox logo for quite a bit of time, probably because it's doing some kind of, check to make sure everything's okay after it detected an improper shutdown. So it'll take a bit longer to actually boot after the crash, but it should still boot you back into the dashboard. And that's how you know that the PoC script is still working on your OS version, and that your console is actually vulnerable to this kernel vulnerability if it crashes your Xbox. So according to the developer, things are still on track for getting this out sometime in the first half of July, so within the next couple of weeks, we should hopefully see this. And a few weeks ago, the developer also talked